The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was called Seven, and it was home to thousands of beings from many different worlds. Some were tall and covered in scales. Some were small with many legs. Some looked like clouds of light. And some were human. Park was human. She was 32 years old with short black hair and tired eyes. She had come to the station 3 years ago looking for work and a new start. Back on Earth, she had lost everything. Her parents had died in an accident. Her brother had moved far away. She had nothing left to hold on to. So she came to space. But space was not kind to humans. In the galaxy, humans were considered young and weak. They had no special powers. They could not see in the dark like they could not breathe underwater like they could not live for 1,000 years like humans were ordinary, forgettable. Worked as a cleaner. Every night when the station lights dimmed to make artificial darkness, she pushed her cleaning cart through the long metal hallways. She scrubbed floors. She emptied trash. She wiped windows that looked out into endless space. Nobody talked to her. Nobody looked at her. She was invisible, and most days she preferred it that way. Deck 14 was where they lived. Had learned a little about them during her time on the station. They came from a planet with no sun, a world of deep caves and eternal night. Because of this, they had never developed eyes that could see light. Their eyes were white and empty like pearls, but they were not helpless. They could hear sounds that no other species could hear. They could smell emotions. They could feel the shape of the world through clicks and echoes. They were proud. They were one of the oldest species in the Galactic Union. They did not mix much with others. They kept to themselves, living in their own section of the station, raising their children in their own way. Cleaned their hallways, but she never went inside their homes. She never spoke to them. She simply did her job and moved on. One night, everything changed. Was pushing her cart past the nursery wing. This was where they kept their young ones, their cubs. She had never seen the cubs up close. She only knew they existed because sometimes she could hear their high clicking sounds through the walls. That night the hallway was quiet, too quiet. Then she heard it, a small sound, a cry. Stopped walking, she listened. The sound came again, soft and scared. It was coming from a dark corner near the emergency stairs. She left her cart and walked slowly toward the sound. The station lights were dim, but she could see a small shape huddled against the wall. It was a cub. The cub was tiny, no bigger than a human toddler. Its fur was silver gray, soft and thick. Its white eyes were wide open, looking at nothing. It was clicking rapidly, but the sounds bounced off the metal walls and came back wrong. The cub was lost and confused. His heart broke a little. She crouched down, making herself small. She did not want to scare the cub. She knew that they could not see her, but they could hear everything. They could smell fear and anger and kindness. "Hey there," she said softly. "Are you lost, little one?" The cub froze. Its ears, which were large and round like a bat's, turned toward her voice. Its small nose twitched, sniffing the air. Did not move closer. She did not try to touch the cub. She simply stayed where she was and began to hum. It was an old song. Her grandmother used to sing it to her when she was small and scared of the dark. Had not thought about that song in years, but now it came back to her like an old friend. The melody was simple and slow. It rose and fell like gentle waves. The cub stopped clicking. Its ears relaxed. Its small body, which had been tight with fear, began to soften. Kept humming. She did not know how long she sat there. It could have been 5 minutes. It could have been 30. She only knew that the cub slowly, carefully moved toward her. It came close enough to touch, then closer. Then it pressed its small, furry body against her leg. Felt tears in her eyes. She did not know why. She only knew that this small, blind creature had trusted her, and that trust felt like a gift. She kept humming until the cub fell asleep, its tiny claws hooked into the fabric of her uniform. That was how the caretakers found them. Two adults came around the corner, their white eyes scanning with echolocation. They stopped when they sensed. She could feel their confusion. A human, here, with one of their cubs. Did not try to explain. She simply stayed still and let them approach. One of the caretakers bent down and carefully lifted the sleeping cub. The cub made a small sound of protest but did not wake. The caretaker looked at for a long moment. At least it felt like looking, even though knew they could not see her face. Then, without a word, they left. Sat alone in the dark hallway. Her leg was cold where the cub had been. She felt strangely empty. She got up, returned to her cart, and finished her shift. She did not tell anyone what had happened. Who would she tell? Who would care? But that night, lying in her small room, could not sleep. She kept thinking about the cub, about how scared it had been, about how it had chosen to trust her. She wondered if she would ever see it again. The next week passed like any other. Cleaned her hallways, emptied her trash, wiped her windows. She passed by deck 14 every night, but she did not see the cub. She told herself it did not matter. She told herself she was being foolish. But every night, she slowed down a little when she passed the nursery wing. And every night, she felt a small ache in her chest when the hallway was empty. On the 8th night, the ache went away. Because the cub was there. It was sitting at the edge of the corridor, right where the nursery wing met the main hallway. It was not crying this time. It was not lost. It was simply sitting, its ears turned toward the direction always came from. It was waiting. When footsteps echoed down the hall, the cub's tail began to wag. It made a soft clicking sound, different from the scared clicks of before. This sound was happy, excited. Stopped in front of the cub, she crouched down again. "You remember me," she whispered. The cub chirped and pressed its head against her hand. In that moment understood something. They did not form bonds through sight. They formed bonds through scent and sound. This cub had memorized her voice, her smell, the rhythm of her heartbeat. This cub had chosen her. Did not know what to do with that. She was just a cleaner. She was nobody. But this small, blind creature did not care about any of that. To the cub, she was safety. She was warmth. She was the song in the dark. She sat down on the cold metal floor and let the cub climb into her lap. "Okay," she said softly. "I guess I have a friend now." She named the cub after her little brother. The brother who used to follow her everywhere when they were children. The brother she missed every single day. Could not see her smile, but somehow thought he knew. 3 weeks passed, and life began to change in small ways. Every night when she arrived at deck 14 was waiting for her. The small silver cub would sit in the same spot, ears pointed toward the hallway, tail twitching with excitement. The moment he heard her footsteps, he would chirp and run to meet her. Learned to bring treats. She asked the station's food synthesizer for something a cub might like, and it gave her small dried fish from their home world. Loved them. He would eat them slowly, savoring each bite, then press his wet nose against palm as if to say thank you. She also learned to speak to him properly. They had their own language, full of clicks and low sounds that humans could not make. But they also learned the common galactic language, and was old enough to understand simple words. "Good boy," would say, scratching behind his ears. "Did you have a good day?" Would chirp in response. He could not speak yet, but he understood. Began to look forward to her shifts. For the first time in 3 years, she had something to wait for, someone who was happy to see her. It was a small thing, but it filled a hole in her heart that she had tried to ignore for too long. Then one night was not alone. Came around the corner and stopped. Was there, as always, but next to him stood another cub. This one was smaller, with russet-colored fur that glowed copper under the dim lights. The new cub's ears were pressed flat against its head, and it was hiding halfway behind. Chirped at, and then turned to nudge the other cub forward. "Who is this?" asked, crouching down slowly. The russet cub sniffed the air. Its nose twitched rapidly. reading all the information that scent could provide. Whatever it found must have been good, because its ears slowly relaxed and lifted. Made a soft clicking sound. It was a sound had heard before when the adults spoke to each other. She did not understand the exact meaning, but she understood the feeling. Was introducing his friend. "Hello there," said gently to the new cub. "I am. What is your name?" The russet cub opened its mouth and made a sound. It was rough and unclear, but thought she heard something like. She repeated, "That is a pretty name." Its tail wagged once, then twice. Then the cub stepped forward and pressed its head against Snee, just like it had done weeks ago. His heart swelled. Over the next few weeks, more cubs appeared. First came, he was the smallest of all, with pale gray fur and ears that seemed too big for his head. He was shy and scared of everything. When first saw him, he was hiding behind a support beam, trembling. It took 3 nights before he was brave enough to approach her, but once he did, he became her shadow. Wherever went on deck 14, followed, always staying close to her legs. Then came was different from the others. He was bold and curious and completely without fear. The first time met him, he climbed into her cleaning cart and refused to get out. He chewed on her mop. He knocked over her spray bottles. He was a troublemaker, but his happy chirps made it impossible to be angry with him. 4 cubs now waited for every night. And they followed her as she worked, forming a small parade behind her cleaning cart. They played games with each other while she scrubbed floors. They curled up together and slept while she wiped windows. The adults watched all of this. Noticed them in the shadows, standing at doorways and corners. They never spoke to her. They never tried to stop the cubs. They simply watched with their white, seeing without seeing eyes. It made nervous at first. She was afraid she was breaking some rule. She was afraid they would take the cubs away. But the adults did nothing, so kept doing what she was doing. One night she finally understood why. Was sitting against a wall taking a short rest. The 4 cubs were piled around her, sleeping in a warm heap of fur and soft breathing. Was tired but happy. This had become the best part of her day. 2 adults walked past. They were caretakers, guests, based on the special bands they wore around their arms. They stopped when they saw in the cubs. Tensed, she waited for them to say something, to scold her, to tell her to leave. Instead, they spoke to each other in their own language. As translator, a small device behind her ear struggled to keep up, but it caught a few words. The blind ones have chosen her. She is only human. Why would they choose her? Who can say? Cubs know what they need. They sense things we cannot. But she is so ordinary. Perhaps, or perhaps ordinary is what they needed. The caretakers looked at for a long moment. Then they turned and walked away. Sat very still. Her heart was beating fast. She did not fully understand what she had heard, but she understood enough. The cubs had chosen her, and the adults, for some reason, were allowing it. Later that week, learned the truth about 3 of the cubs. She was cleaning near the administrative office when she heard voices inside. She did not mean to listen, but the door was open and the voices were clear. "The orphans are a problem," someone was saying, "and have not bonded with any caretaker. They refuse everyone." "They were traumatized by the 4 disaster," another voice replied. "Their mothers died in front of them. It is natural that they struggle." Natural or not, cubs need bonds. Without proper attachment, they will not develop correctly. "We have tried everything. Nothing works." There was a pause. Then the first voice spoke again, quieter this time. "There is the human woman, the cleaner. The cubs seem to like her." "She is not. It is unusual." "Many things are unusual, but if it helps the children." Walked away. She did not need to hear more. That night when she arrived at deck 14, she looked at, and with new eyes, orphans. They had lost their mothers. They had lost everything, just like had. No wonder they had found each other. She knelt down and opened her arms. All 4 cubs rushed to her at once, burying themselves in her embrace, held them tight. She could feel their small hearts beating against her chest. "I understand now," she whispered. "You are not just looking for a friend, you are looking for family." She thought about her own family, her parents gone, her brother far away, her home left behind. She thought about how lonely she had been, how empty, how lost. "I know what that feels like," she said. "I know exactly what that feels like." Made a small, sad sound, kissed the top of his head. "It is okay," she said. "I am here now, I am not going anywhere." She meant it. For the first time in years, she truly meant it. These cubs needed her, and maybe, just maybe, she needed them too. Did not know what the future would bring. She did not know if the adults would allow this strange relationship to continue. She did not know if she was doing the right thing. But she knew one thing for certain. She was no longer invisible. She was no longer alone. She had found something worth holding on to. And she would not let go. The message arrived on a Tuesday. Was in her small room, eating a simple dinner of rice and vegetables from the food synthesizer. Her communicator made a soft beeping sound. She picked it up and read the message on the screen. "You are requested to appear before the council. Assembly Hall, Deck 14, tomorrow, 10th hour." Stomach dropped. She read the message again, hoping she had made a mistake, but the words were clear. The council wanted to see her. She did not sleep that night. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, imagining all the terrible things that could happen. They would tell her to stay away from the cubs. They would ban her from Deck 14. They would report her to the station authorities and she would lose her job. By the time morning came, had convinced herself that her life was over. She put on her cleanest uniform and walked to the assembly hall. The hallways of Deck 14 felt different during the day. Busier. More adults walked past, going about their lives. Some of them glanced at her with their white eyes, kept her head down and kept walking. The assembly hall was at the center of the section. It was a large circular room with a high ceiling. The walls were covered in carvings that told stories of the people. In the middle of the room was a curved table, and behind that table sat 7 elders. Had never seen the elders before. They were old, their fur gray and thin, but they sat with straight backs and proud expressions. These were the leaders of the people on Station 7. In the center sat a female elder with silver fur and a calm face. This was Elder, the matriarch. Had heard her name whispered in the hallways but had never expected to meet her. "Park," Elder said. Her voice was deep and smooth like distant thunder. "Thank you for coming." Bowed her head. "I came as quickly as I could, Elder." "Please sit." There was a single chair in front of the table. Sat down. Her hands were shaking, so she put them in her lap and held them together tightly. Elder leaned forward slightly. "Do you know why you are here?" "I think so," said. Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "It is about the cubs." "Yes," Elder nodded. "You have formed attachments with 4 of our young ones, and they follow you through the halls. They sleep near you while you work. They wait for you when you are not there." "I did not plan for this to happen," said quickly. "I was just doing my job. Found me first and then the others came. I never tried to take them away from anyone. I never wanted to cause problems." "We know," said another elder, a male with dark brown fur. "We have watched you for many weeks. You have not done anything wrong." Felt some of the tension leave her shoulders, but she was still confused. "Then why am I here?" she asked. Elder was quiet for a moment, then she spoke. "Among our people, cubs choose their attachments through instinct. They cannot see with eyes, so they judge with their hearts. They sense safety. They sense warmth. They sense someone who will protect them and never leave them. When a cub chooses, it is sacred. We do not question it." She paused. "But what has happened with you is unusual. You are not. You are human. This has never happened before in the history of our people." Did not know what to say, so she stayed silent. A younger council member spoke up. His name, would later learn, was Counselor Han. He had kind eyes, if eyes that could not see could be called kind. "There is something you should know," Counselor Han said. "3 of the cubs who have chosen you are orphans, and lost their mothers in the 4 disaster 2 years ago. It was a terrible accident. A transport ship crashed during a mining operation. Many died, including their mothers." His chest tightened. She had known about the orphans, but hearing it spoken out loud made it more real. "These 3 cubs have struggled greatly," Counselor Han continued. "They refused to bond with any caretaker. We tried everything. Different adults, different approaches. Nothing worked. They were lost and alone, and we feared they would never recover." He paused. "And then you came." Felt tears building behind her eyes. She blinked them back. "I did not do anything special," she said. I was there. I did not push them away when they came to me. That is all." Elder made a soft clicking sound. Translator could not interpret it, but it felt almost like a laugh. "You say that as if it is nothing," Elder said. "But do you know how rare that is? Most beings are too busy with their own lives to notice a lost child. Most beings do not stop to help someone they do not know. You did. You gave these cubs something precious. You gave them attention. You gave them kindness. You gave them a place to belong." His tears finally fell. She wiped them away with the back of her hand. "I know what it feels like to be alone," she said quietly. "I lost my family too. When I saw those cubs, I saw myself. I could not walk away." The council was silent. Elder's expression softened. "Humans are strange creatures," she said. "In the galaxy, you are considered young and weak. You have no great powers. You live short lives. Many species look down on you." She leaned forward. "But I have lived for over 300 years. I have met beings from 100 different worlds, and I have learned that strength comes in many forms. Sometimes the strongest thing in the universe is simply a kind heart." She stood up. The other elders stood with her. "Park," Elder said formally, "the cubs have chosen you. We will not dishonor their choice. From this day forward, you are granted access to the nursery wing. You will not enter as a cleaner. You will enter as a—" Translator struggled with the word. She repeated. "Guardian by choice," Counselor Han explained. "It is an old title. It means someone who is not family by blood but who has been accepted as family by action." His heart was pounding. "You are saying I can still see the cubs. I can still be with them." "More than that," Elder said. "You will have responsibility for them. You will help raise them alongside our caretakers. You will be part of their lives, not as a visitor but as family." Could not speak. She covered her mouth with her hand and sobbed. Elder walked around the table and approached her. The old matriarch reached out and placed a gentle hand on his head. "Do not cry, child," she said softly. "This is a happy day. You have been given a gift and you have given one in return. The cubs are lucky to have found you." "I am the lucky one," managed to say. Elder clicked softly again. "Perhaps you are both lucky. Perhaps that is how family works." Left the assembly hall feeling like she was walking on air. That night when she arrived at the nursery wing, the cubs were waiting as always. But this time, everything felt different. She was not a stranger anymore. She was not just a cleaner passing through. She was family. She knelt down and gathered all 4 cubs into her arms. They chirped and clicked and pressed their small bodies against her. "I am staying," she told them. "I am yours and you are mine, forever." Licked her cheek, made a happy purring sound, held onto her arm and refused to let go. Being tried to climb onto her head. Laughed through her tears. For the first time in years, she felt like she was home. News travels fast on a space station. Within days, everyone seemed to know about the human cleaner who had become a. The story spread through the hallways and cafeterias like fire. A human raising cubs. It was strange. It was unprecedented. It was all anyone could talk about. Tried to ignore the attention. She had never wanted to be famous. She just wanted to be with her cubs, but people stared at her wherever she went. Some looked curious, some looked confused, some looked angry. The reactions from other species were mixed. The peaceful water-dwelling species seemed pleased. They were known for their belief that love had no boundaries. One of their elders stopped in a corridor and bowed deeply. "You have honored the old ways," the elder said through his translator. "Family is not about blood. Family is about choice. Your heart chose those children and their hearts chose you. That is beautiful." Thanked him with a bow of her own. But not everyone was so kind. There were species with hard shells and sharp mandibles. They believed in strict hierarchies. Everyone had a place and everyone was supposed to stay in that place. To them was a disruption. She was a lower being trying to rise above her station. One day was walking through the main promenade when she heard voices behind her. She did not turn around, but she heard every word. "Disgusting," one was saying. "Humans are service animals. They clean, they carry, they follow orders. They are not meant to raise children of higher species." "I heard she was just a cleaner," another replied. "Now she thinks she can be a mother to cubs. What a joke." They have lost their minds, letting a human into their nurseries. Their culture must be dying if they are this desperate. Kept walking. Her face was hot with shame and anger, but she did not respond. She had learned long ago that some battles were not worth fighting. But the herd as well. That evening there was a diplomatic reception in the station's grand hall. Representatives from all the major species were invited. Was not there, of course. Cleaners did not attend diplomatic events. But Elder was there. And so was the ambassador, who had mocked humans earlier that day. The ambassador was speaking with a group of other diplomats when Elder approached. The old matriarch moved slowly, but there was power in every step. "Ambassador," she said, her voice carried across the room, "I believe you had some thoughts about humans earlier today, about their place in the galaxy." The ambassador shifted uncomfortably. He had not expected anyone to mention that. "I was simply stating facts," he said. "Humans are a lower species. Everyone knows this. They have no special abilities. They have no great accomplishments. They are here to serve." "I see." Elder tilted her head. "And what great accomplishments have your people achieved in the field of ambassador?" The ambassador was confused. "Yes, raising children, forming bonds, creating families." Elder's white eyes seemed to look straight through him. "The outsourced to breeding facilities. Your young ones never know their parents. They are raised in groups by machines and workers. Is that correct?" The ambassador's mandibles clicked with annoyance. "Our system is efficient. It produces strong workers." "It produces broken souls," Elder said calmly. "But that is not my concern. My concern is with your comments about humans." She turned to address the entire room. "Among my people there is an old saying. The eyes see rank, but the heart knows kin. We do not see with eyes. We have never cared about your hierarchies. We judge beings by what they do, not by what they are." She paused. "This human woman you speak of so poorly has done something remarkable. She has given our orphaned children something that no one else could. She gave them hope. She gave them love. She gave them a reason to trust again after their mothers were taken from them." The room was silent. "That is not the work of a service animal," Elder continued. "That is the work of a mother, and if any being here thinks they can do better, I invite them to try." No one spoke. Elder turned back to the ambassador. "You may think humans are worthless because they have no powers, but perhaps that is exactly why they are valuable. They have nothing to offer except themselves, their kindness, their patience, their love, and sometimes that is exactly what is needed." She walked away, leaving the ambassador standing in silence. The next day, everyone on the station heard about what had happened. The story of Elder defending a human cleaner spread even faster than the original news. Heard about it from Counselor Han, who visited her in the nursery. Elder spoke for you, he said. She does not do that often. She must think highly of you. Was surprised. I never asked her to defend me. You did not need to. Your actions spoke louder than any request ever could. Counselor Han sat down next to. The cubs were playing nearby, chasing each other around the room. Their happy chirps filled the air. Can I tell you something? He asked. Of course. Before you came, those 3 orphans were considered lost causes. The caretakers had given up. We did not know what to do with them. He watched the cubs play. Now look at them, is learning to sing. No longer hides from strangers, is still a troublemaker, but he is a happy troublemaker. Smiled. He ate my ID card yesterday. Counselor Han laughed. It was a strange clicking sound, but had learned to recognize laughter. My point is this, he said. You changed them, not through magic or technology or special powers, just through being there, being patient, being kind. He paused. Humans do that, you know. You change things without realizing it. Thought about his words for a long time after he left. That night she sat with while the other cubs slept. The silver cub was growing fast. He was almost up to her knee now. His fur was thickening and his clicks were becoming more complex. Said softly, do you know what a human is? Tilted his head, listening. We are small, continued. We are weak. We cannot see in the dark like you. We cannot live for hundreds of years. We are ordinary. She stroked his fur gently. But maybe ordinary is okay. Maybe ordinary can still matter. Pressed his forehead against hers. It was a gesture of deep trust, the kind usually reserved for close family. Had learned about it from the caretakers. Then opened his mouth and spoke. The word was broken and unclear, but understood it perfectly. Mother. Tears ran down her face. She pulled into a tight hug. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I am your mother. Purred against her chest, content and safe. Looked at the other sleeping cubs, her children, her family. The galaxy might think humans were nothing special, but in this room, in this moment, knew the truth. Love did not need special powers. Love was the power. And no one, not ambassadors or hierarchies or ancient customs, could take that away from her. 18 months had passed since first found a lost cub in a dark corridor. Everything was different now. No longer worked as a cleaner. The council had offered her a new position as an official caregiver in the nursery wing. She had her own small apartment on Deck 14, close to the children. She ate her meals with families. She learned their songs and their stories. She had become part of their world. Her cubs had grown so much, was tall now, nearly reaching her shoulder. His silver fur had darkened to a beautiful steel gray. He was quiet and thoughtful, always watching over the younger ones. He had learned to speak both the common language and fluently. He called mother in both. Had become an artist. She could not see colors, but she could feel textures and shapes with incredible detail. She spent hours creating sculptures from clay and wire. Her pieces were strange and beautiful, full of curves and edges that seemed to flow like music. Other had started buying her work. Was no longer the scared, hiding cub he had once been. He was still small for his age, but he had found his courage. He was training to become a medical assistant, learning how to care for sick and injured. The teachers said he had gentle hands and a calm presence. And was still bold, still curious, still getting into trouble. He had recently discovered a love for engineering and spent his days taking things apart and putting them back together. Sometimes the things worked better afterward. Sometimes they exploded. It was always an adventure. There was also a 5th cub now. Her name was. She was barely a year old when the rescue teams found her. Her ship had been attacked by pirates. Everyone else on board had died. Had survived by hiding in a storage compartment, alone in the darkness for 3 days. When they brought her to the station, she was almost dead from fear and dehydration. The doctors saved her body, but her mind was broken. She would not eat. She would not sleep. She would not let anyone touch her. The caretakers tried everything. Nothing worked. Just lay in her bed, staring at nothing, waiting to die. Then came. She did not try to feed. She did not try to comfort her with words. She simply sat beside the cub's bed and began to hum. It was the same song she had hummed for all those months ago, her grandmother's song, the melody that had started everything. At first did not respond. She lay still and silent, her white eyes empty, but kept humming. She came back every hour, every day, and she hummed that same gentle song. On the 5th day, turned her head toward. On the 7th day, reached out a tiny paw. On the 10th day, climbed into slap and would not let go. Now followed everywhere, just as the other cubs once had. She was the youngest and the smallest, and the older cubs protected her like big brothers and sisters, gave her his favorite toy, checked on her every night before sleep, made her a tiny clay figure shaped like a heart, and let her ride on his back whenever she was tired. They were a family, strange and unusual and wonderful. One morning, received a message from the station administration. The Galactic Union was conducting its annual census, and there was a question about her living situation. "Your records show you are the guardian of 5 non-human minors," the message said. "Please confirm this is correct and provide documentation." Was worried. What if the Union decided her arrangement was not legal? What if they tried to take her children away? She went to Elder for help. The old matriarch listened to his concerns with patience. Then she smiled, which was rare for her. "Do not worry," Elder said. "I will handle this." A few days later, received another message. This one was from the Galactic Union itself. Regarding the guardianship inquiry for Park Human, Station 7, the Council has submitted official documentation confirming Ms. Park's status as guardian by choice under cultural law. This status grants full parental rights and responsibilities as recognized by Article 7 of the Galactic Family Accords. No further action is required. Read the message 3 times before she believed it. It was real. It was official. The galaxy itself had recognized her as a mother. That evening, Elder visited the nursery. She moved slowly now, her age showing more each day. But her mind was still sharp, and her presence still commanded respect. "You look happy," she observed. Was sitting on the floor, surrounded by cubs, was in her lap, was trying to braid her hair, which was not going well, was telling a story about a fish who wanted to fly, was reading a medical textbook in the corner, and was beside, as always, watching over everyone. "I am happy," said. "I did not know it was possible to be this happy." Elder sat down on a nearby chair. Her old joints clicked softly. "Do you know why I defended you all those months ago?" she asked. Shook her head. "Because you reminded me of something I had forgotten." Elder closed her eyes, remembering. "When I was young, we believed that strength was everything. We valued power and age and accomplishment. We thought beings who lacked these things were worthless." She opened her eyes again. "But you showed me something different. You showed me that the smallest acts can have the largest effects. A song hummed in a dark hallway, a hand extended to a frightened child. These things seem like nothing, but they can change entire worlds." Felt tears forming in her eyes. She seemed to cry a lot these days, but they were always happy tears. "I was just doing what felt right," she said. "Yes," Elder nodded slowly. "That is what makes you dangerous." Blinked dangerous. To the old ways of thinking, to the hierarchies and the rankings and the belief that some species are better than others. Elder smiled. "You do not fit into any category, Park. You are just a human, just a cleaner, just an ordinary woman. And yet you have done what diplomats and warriors and leaders could not. You have built bridges between worlds with nothing but kindness." She stood up slowly and carefully. "The galaxy underestimates humans," she said. "They think your kind is weak because you have short lives and soft bodies, but they are wrong. Humans are strong in ways that cannot be measured. You love fiercely. You hope stubbornly. You keep going when others give up." She walked to the door and paused. "One day, historians will write about this station. They will write about the changes that happened here, the way species started working together, the way old hatreds began to heal." She looked back and they will wonder how it started, what small event set everything in motion. She smiled one last time. They will never guess it was a cleaner with a song. Then she was gone. Sat in the silence, thinking about Elder's words. The cubs had fallen asleep around her, warm and safe and loved. She looked at each of them, her children, her family, her reason for living. She had come to this station with nothing. She had been alone and lost and forgotten. She had thought her life was over. But life had other plans. Sometimes the biggest adventures do not happen in grand places. Sometimes they happen in dark hallways and quiet nurseries. Sometimes they happen when an ordinary person does an ordinary thing with an extraordinary heart. Kissed each sleeping cub on the head, stirred and opened his eyes. "Mother," he murmured sleepily. "I am here," she whispered. "I am right here." He smiled and went back to sleep. Stayed awake a little longer, watching her family breathe, listening to their small sounds in the darkness. She had only been a human cleaner, but she had become so much more. And somewhere out in the vast, endless galaxy, other humans were doing the same thing, reaching out, building bridges, changing worlds one small act of kindness at a time. That was what humans were. That was what humans did. And maybe, in the end, that was enough.